Tansei, I'm Kristen Ashkate. Welcome to APTN National News Daytime. Thank you for joining us. A group of teenagers in northern Manitoba First Nation have all been arrested last week after shots were fired in the community and a male was assaulted. On Wednesday, October 22nd at around 10 p.m., Cross Lake RCMP received multiple reports of shots fired in the area of Egg Lake and Beardy's Point in Pimichikamak Cree Nation. When RCMP entered Beardy's Point, they received another report that a group of possibly 6 males were seen assaulting another male and shots were again fired. The victim was not found, but RCMP did locate and arrest 4 suspects. They seized a semi-automatic firearm along with a magazine and additional rounds. Crack cocaine and some money were also seized from another suspect. 3 of the male suspects are all 15 years of age, and another male suspect is 17 years old. All 4 are facing a number of firearm and drug-related charges and were taken to the Cross Lake RCMP detachment. RCMP also located a pickup truck that had been shot several times. There were no reported injuries. Pimichikamak is located more than 760 kilometers north of Winnipeg. For 3 months, 23-year-old Desiree Ross has been missing from her home community of Kakowishtahow First Nation in southern Saskatchewan. Over the weekend, community members held another search for Ross, hoping to find any other leads in her disappearance. Desiree Ross was last seen in Kakowishtahow First Nation on Sunday, July 27th, and it was also the last time she was in contact with family. Over the weekend, community members organized a larger and coordinated search with the use of quads, but Ross was still not found. According to leadership, Saskatchewan RCMP is continuing with their investigation, including following any possible new leads on where Ross may have went. Desiree Ross is 5'3", 210 pounds with brown eyes, brown medium-length hair, and she may be wearing glasses. She is also known to travel to Regina. Chief Evan Tapatat has previously said that Ross may have also been seen in Yorkton or in the company of another man from the First Nation. If anyone knows where Desiree Ross may be, you are asked to contact RCMP or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-8477. Kakowishtahow is located about 166 kilometers east of Regina near the town of Broadview, just north of the number 1 highway. In late May, a wildfire burned through the evacuated community of Chipewyan Lake in Treaty 8 territory, a part of Big Stone Cree Nation in Alberta. Almost half of the structures were destroyed, and Big Stone's chief says the federal and provincial governments have been slow to help. APTN's Chris Stewart has more.
Not long after residents of the Chipewyan Lake in northern Alberta were evacuated, a massive fire engulfed the small community. And when the fires receded, the damage to the infrastructure was immense. Chief Andy Alec was happy residents escaped safely, but the damage will take years to fix.
In the Chipewyan Lake community, we lost the outreach center, we lost the Big Stone Health Center, we lost the water treatment plant, we lost the church, and we lost 22 residents. So there's about 62 structures in total within Chipewyan Lake.
Close to half the community destroyed, and there are still members without a place to stay.
There's still a number of them that are displaced. Over 50 residents are still being displaced.
Chief Aluk says both the federal and provincial governments have been slow to help.
It hasn't been an easy and smooth transition to access funding, and I would say that it was also delaying a lot of supports and services for our membership that have been evacuated.
APTN asked if the assistance from governments was the same as the town of Jasper after the 2024 wildfire that destroyed much of the town site.
Absolutely not. I think the things that happened in Jasper were expedited, and there was a lot of media attention. There was a lot of resources that were poured into Jasper in comparison to what had happened in Chipewyan Lake. Unfortunately, I don't feel that we got all the resources that were needed within Chipewyan Lake in a timely manner. Even now, having visited the community at Chipewyan Lake yesterday, we're only now getting temporary housing for the residences that that had burned.
APTN contacted the Alberta Emergency Management Agency for comment. They referred us to Indigenous Services Canada. Indigenous Services Canada did not comment on the chief's concerns before airtime. Chris Stewart, APTN National News, Big Stone Cree Nation, Alberta.
The head of the Assembly of First Nations says Canada needs to conduct a constitutional review of the 1930 Natural Resource Transfer Act. National Chief Cindy Woodhouse-Neepanak made the comments during her testimony at the House of Commons Standing Committee on Natural Resources in Ottawa last week. The committee is conducting a study on the development of critical minerals in Canada with some of the focus on Indigenous rights. The National Chief says Indigenous rights must be respected, with economic reconciliation at the forefront of any discussion on critical minerals.
All of Canada's laws and policy, including both their final content and the process for the development, must be compliant with Section 5 of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act and the objectives of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples itself. Economic reconciliation must guide critical minerals policies and activities. Economic reconciliation must not be an afterthought, but a guiding principle of Canada's critical minerals strategy.
The National Chief adds that economic reconciliation must also include policies and programs that enable First Nations to participate as stakeholders, right holders, and equity partners. Indigenous social work has returned to the First Nations University of Canada in Regina. We'll take you to the student gathering right after the break. Welcome back. The Indigenous Social Work program has returned to the First Nations University of Canada in Regina. The university recently held a conference on some of the challenges students face on a daily basis. CTV's Mick Favo reports.
The Indigenous Social Work program is one of the leading programs at the First Nations University of Canada. Now an alumni group has brought the past, present, and future members of the faculty together to talk about the issues members face after completing their education and in the working world.
We really focus on this theme of self-determination and how can we, bring our knowledge and our background to the social work profession, and also to really help clients, but to make sure that we're living up to our values and ideals as Indigenous social workers.
In 2023, the Indigenous Social Work faculty celebrated 50 years of activity. The program has produced generations of professionals working across the province. Brianna Lara has been working in child protection since she left university 4 years ago. She has experienced both an Indigenous and non-Indigenous led approach to the field.
It was a different lens for sure, just walking in both worlds, especially because a lot of people don't understand community and how our families need that connection. So it was always about the individual, and not about everybody else that is connected with family and community.
Misha Stonechild is another graduate of the program. She went directly to an Indigenous-led organization and says the transition was simple, with similar values shared all around.
I feel like it did set me up to be able to understand different points of views and to be able to apply what I learned in school into my practice, but also all the different tools that I've learned throughout my academic career apply to my field professional career.
Many of those now out in the field have shared experiences, sometimes feeling like the only Indigenous person in the room. The alumni group is looking to form a support system for those who may be struggling and to lay a foundation for future graduates.
For our students, for our current students, to be able to see, where the BISW graduates are, where they're working, the impact that they're having, so that they know, all the different paths that are available to them as well.
Other Indigenous social work professionals who are not alumni are welcome to join the group and their movement towards self-determination. Mick Favo, CTV News, Regina.
The Central Urban Métis Federation, or CUMFI for short, has opened a new safe house for Indigenous women, children, and 2 LGBTQ+ people fleeing from domestic violence. The facility in Saskatoon features emergency and long-term housing wings and can accommodate up to 20 families. APTN's Rachel May was at the grand opening.
And we just hope that our community knows that we are going to open and that we're going to be safe and welcoming.
President of CUMFI, Shirley Eisbester, spoke at the opening of Aggie and Shirley's house, named after both her and her mother, Agnes Karen. The shelter is funded with $7.6 million from the federal government, $540,000 each from the province and city of Saskatoon, and $1.4 million from National Indigenous Collaborative Housing. The shelter will offer residents furnished 3-bedroom suites and trauma-informed counseling from elders.
And the goal has always been that when Indigenous women come to this home, that the first face they're going to see is a brown face. They'll know then that they have some support when we see our own people in that space, and they're the leaders of the space. And so that's always been our goal.
Saskatoon Mayor Cynthia Block said there had been opposition to bringing affordable housing projects to various areas of the city. She hopes projects like this will change minds and build the well-being of the city as a whole.
When people are unhoused, we're all impacted. When people are unsafe, we are all impacted. When we are living in a city where there is domestic violence and children who are witnessing domestic violence, and we think it doesn't touch us, those are blinders.
Aggie and Shirley's house will welcome its first families on November 16th, the 140th anniversary of the day Louis Riel was hung in 1885. Rachel May, APTN National News, Saskatoon.
A First Nation in Manitoba is doing their part to create more affordable housing in Winnipeg. Broken Head Ojibwe Nation says they want to make sure their members living in the city have a safe and budget-friendly place to call home.
3, 2, 1.
The yet-to-be-constructed apartment complex named the Elsewood will stand 7 stories and hold 147 rental units with amenities. It will sit along the Assiniboine River in Winnipeg's Osborne Village neighborhood and should be completed in the next 2 years. The project is wholly owned by Broken Head Ojibwe Nation. Their chief, Gordon Blue Sky, says it's the First Nation's first groundbreaking for a project of this scale within their territory of Treaty 1. Roughly 40% of the units will be affordable housing geared towards students and those who need it most. Manitoba's Housing and Homelessness Minister Bernadette Smith says the project represents economic reconciliation in action.
Access to safe and affordable housing remains a top priority for our government. We know that too many people, especially Indigenous people, face barriers to housing. Our relatives are overrepresented in our urban homelessness population and continue to experience housing shortages in home communities. So we have a responsibility to change that, and that's exactly what Broken Head is doing.
The next generation of Indigenous leaders and entrepreneurs recently gathered in Gatineau, Quebec. They took part in a leadership building program brought to them by a Montreal-based First Nations business school. Nunganske Rose Jacobs has the story.
It exceeded all of my expectations.
It was the experience Raphael Langevin hoped for after a 6.5-hour drive to Gatineau from Mashtwayet's First Nation.
I mean, the people we got to meet are people that you don't meet, it's a small, we bump into each other sometimes, but to really have the time to to listen to those people, to ask our question, it was very nice and very inspiring.
Langevin and 23 other participants, ages 18 to 35, from various First Nations, attended the First Nations Executive Education's 4-day program themed Trail Forward, where future Indigenous leaders and entrepreneurs received university-level training. There, they were able to network, hear from political officials, and discuss with each other and organizers what they need to achieve their goals. Former Assembly of First Nations Regional Chief and FNEE Associate Professor Ghislaine Picard spoke with participants.
First Nation executive education is very key, and we're just adding, another option to what's out there for our peoples, and the kind of training that's being offered is really tailored to the realities of our communities.
Participants attended immersive workshops, training sessions, and group discussions. This will provide them with the tools to progress in their careers. Innu and Anishinaabe academic co-lead of the program, Jay Lunia Machez, wished opportunities like this had been around for himself.
So I'm really glad of this opportunity that I have to work with the Executive First Nation Education to build up this program, to meet the youth, to understand what they have to say, and to try to improve this program year after year to respond to what they need.
Over the week, everyone learned about civic engagement, stronger public speaking skills, and better time management. Picard drove several hours for the conference because of its significance to him.
It's always been important in my mind to be present, in any given opportunity, especially when looking at our youth, who are almost a majority in some of our communities. So they need that kind of not only presence but support.
With an influx of applicants, organizers reaffirmed their plans to host 3 cohorts each year. Langevin wants other youth to experience what she did.
I feel like as youth, we have a big role to play in the development of our communities, and it's important that we empower each other to really have an impact back home.
Nunganske Rose Jacobs, APTN National News, Gatineau, Quebec.
We now want to tell you about the results for last week's web poll questions. Our first question we asked, do you rely on country food to supplement what you shop for? 55% voted no, 27% voted yes, and 18% said they can't hunt and only pick berries. Just kidding, it doesn't say that. Our second question was an APTN Investigates question we asked. Should the Ontario Provincial Police and Tyendinaga Police apologize to the families of 2 Mohawk fishermen for being wrong about how they drowned? 68% said yes, 24% said no, and 8% were unsure. Our third question was, which social media site are you on the most? 49% said Facebook, especially uncle and aunties. 18% said TikTok, 13% said others. 13% also said I don't use social media, 5% said Blue Sky, and only 3% said X, formerly known as Twitter. And we had a bonus question last week, which was, who will win the World Series? And 100% said the Toronto Blue Jays. We're hoping everyone will win as well. Thanks to everyone who took the time to cast your votes. You can go to our website at aptnnews.ca to see our next list of questions. An update now on the Toronto Blue Jays. The Jays are in LA for tonight's pivotal Game 3 of the World Series. The Jays' bats will look to bounce back after being limited to only 1 run in Game 2 on Saturday. Bo Bichette will be up in the lineup playing second base today. The Jays have won 3 of 5 on the road during the playoffs. They'll need to win at least 1 in LA to bring the series back to Toronto. An Indigenous sports tournament is now in its 20th year on the prairies. We'll bring you that story next after the break. Miigwech for staying with us. Cloudy in St. John's at 8, Charlottetown 10. Cartwright 5, La Grande River 5 and sunny. Saguenay 7, Gaspé 11 and showers. Toronto 8, Sault Ste. Marie 7. Sudbury 5, Sioux Lookout 11 and sunny. Puckatawagan 7 and sunny. God's Lake partly cloudy and 11. Princess Harbor showers and 12, Winnipeg rain and 10. Sunny in Regina at 1, Saskatoon 1. Buffalo Narrows rain and 2, La Ronge 5. Peace River 2 and partly cloudy, sunny and high level at 4. Lethbridge 10, Red Deer 9. Tofino 10 and rain, Vancouver showers and +9. Smithers 3, Fort Nelson +4 and rain there. Old Crow -14, Mayo -2. 2 in Fort Simpson, Yellowknife -1. Sax Harbor -3, cloudy and Tuktoyaktuk at -6. Baker Lake -1, Chesterfield +1. And Resolute -14, Arctic Bay -8. Thanks for staying with us. A volleyball tournament is celebrating its 20th anniversary this weekend in the Kakawishtahow First Nation. CTV's Frugina Daklut reports.
Hands slamming against the volleyball, spectators cheering. The 20th Cairns Classic Senior Girls Volleyball Tournament has begun on Kakawishtahow First Nation.
Good volleyball, for one thing. This year is the 20th annual. So this year is the most teams we've ever had in history. This year we have 16 teams. We have teams from down south, up north.
Coordinating about 40 games in 2 days is no small task.
Our biggest thing was just trying to work together, right? Trying our best not to overstep and just be as a collective and try to get it done for not just for the nation and the school and the tournament, but for these kids that are participating.
The high number of competitors raising the stakes for the home team.
There's a lot of high caliber that has come this year. We have a couple new teams that are coming from Weyburn and a couple new Belcaris teams that we invited. So it's going to be a tough battle for them. It's tough every year.
While there is a battle on the court, this event brings communities and opponents together at the end of the day.
The event is mostly about truth and reconciliation, bringing together teams, friends, family, community.
The sport is widely popular on the First Nation, thanks in part to the tradition started 20 years ago by then teacher Chief Ivan Teiporat and Elana Teipotat.
It's huge. It's a massive, integral part in our nation. It's a kind of a cornerstone, I would say. A lot of kids do look at volleyball as an escape for a lot of things, and even just for fun and amusement, really. A lot of entertaining stuff going on here with volleyball.
The tournament continues into the weekend, but the legacy that began 2 decades ago will go on to inspire the next generation of athletes for years to come. Frugina Daklut, CTV News, Kakawishtahow First Nation.
And finally for us, it was a touching moment in Nova Scotia where 2 men discovered 3 pilot whales too close to shore and struggling to get back to deeper water.
To touch them and look into their eyes, that's kind of what got us, I think, and made us, do the right thing. I hope we did the right thing.
This video captured the moment on Port Hood Island in northeastern Nova Scotia when Mark Rankin and Grant Cameron stripped down to their underwear and jumped into action to help the whales back into more comfortable depths. The Marine Animal Response Society was alerted and was on the way, but called their team off when they heard members of the public had stepped in and assisted. Shout out to Mark and Grant for the good deed. And that's your daytime newscast for this Monday. We're back again in a few hours with your evening newscast. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masi cho kwana. Thank you for watching. We'll see you again. Next day.